The tree frog spends its days ambling through the canopy along vines and branches.
It could also be a giant underwater creature in the underworld.
Ancient cave paintings in South Africa have revealed creatures that defy explanation.
This colouring, combined with its slow movements, helps the skink to camouflage with its surroundings and hide from enemies.
These strange beings, never seen before in the natural world, have left researchers wondering, could they still exist somewhere hidden from sight? 1. These were found in the Tsodolo Hills. The Tsodolo Hills rock art first gained international attention in 1959, when South African writer and explorer Laurens van der Post documented the site while he was traveling. While the indigenous San people had long revered the area, van der Post's writings introduced the broader world to the significance of these sacred hills. His vivid descriptions of the site's spiritual importance and its super-detailed rock art brought it to the attention of researchers and archaeologists everywhere. 2. And they found a lot of information. By the 1970s, detailed archaeological studies began, unveiling the true depth of the site's historical importance. Excavations uncovered a wealth of artifacts, including stone tools, pottery, and remnants of ancient civilizations that lived there. It proved that the area had been a center of human activity for tens of thousands of years. Key findings, like those in Rhino Cave, indicated that the site was not only used for people to live in, but also for ritual and spiritual purposes. As studies progressed, researchers identified over 4,500 individual paintings across approximately 500 sites. 3. But with the amount, there was a lot to go through. The majority of the paintings that were found here are made in red or red-orange pigments. It's believed that the San people made these, who created them using natural materials like ochre.
The rock art at Tsodolo spans a vast period of human history, with some paintings estimated to be over 20,000 years old.
The red paintings mostly show wildlife that was native to the region, including giraffes, rhinos, and antelope. Some of the art also features abstract geometric shapes and patterns, believed to carry spiritual or symbolic meanings. These symbols may have been used during shamanic rituals, offering insight into the San people's worldview and their connection to nature and the spirit world, which is something they really believed in. 4. White paintings. Totally different from the earlier red paintings, the white paintings were created by the Bantu peoples in a later time. These works, found in the white paintings rock shelter, mostly just depict human figures, domestic animals like cattle, and figures on horseback. The white pigment used in these paintings sets them apart stylistically and reflects the cultural changes that happened after the introduction of livestock and horses in the region, likely in the mid-1800s. At this point, domesticated animals began to play a more central role in daily life, which shows us how the world went from being reliant on animals to survive because they were food, to being animals that were used for more than just that. But there wasn't just this, there were also other paintings here. 5. The ones no one can understand. There are some mysterious paintings in the cave. These depictions show bizarre, hybrid animals that don't resemble any known species. Some appear to combine traits of different animals, like having the body of a lion but the head of an unknown beast, while others show creatures with exaggerated features, like massive eyes or elongated limbs. One theory is that these paintings represent extinct animals that once roamed the area thousands of years ago but left little or no fossil evidence behind.
These images not only highlight the ecological diversity of the region, but also reflect the deep spiritual connection between the San people and the natural world.
Another possibility was symbolic, representing gods, spirits, or shamanic visions. In many ancient cultures, art was used as a way to represent spiritual experiences and even featured supernatural beings that appeared in dreams or during trances. Others speculate that these creatures may have been inspired by early encounters with now extinct megafauna or were mythical animals passed down through stories later on. But the question here is, 6. Could they still be among us? Some experts suggest that the creatures may have been based on real animals that existed thousands of years ago, which are now extinct. Given the vast and unexplored areas of southern Africa, it's not entirely unreasonable to wonder if some of these animals could still be living in remote, undisturbed regions. Many regions in Africa remain largely unexplored, with dense forests, mountain ranges, and hidden caves that have been inaccessible to humans throughout history. These environments could potentially hide species that have evaded detection for centuries. There are precedents for discoveries like this species thought to have been extinct or unknown to science, having been found in isolated habitats, sparking hope that similar mysteries might be solved with further exploration. 7. Like the coelacanth. The coelacanth, a prehistoric fish, was believed to have been extinct for about 66 million years, with its last known fossils dating from the late Cretaceous period. For decades, this ancient species was considered a relic of the past, thought to have vanished alongside the dinosaurs. But in 1938, a living coelacanth was unexpectedly caught by a fisherman off the coast of South Africa. This discovery, led by ichthyologist Marjorie Courtenay-Latimer, was shocking for everyone. The coelacanth's survival into the modern era was a remarkable find. Turns out, this living fossil had just moved on to the deep waters of the Indian Ocean, so it was totally undisturbed by the average person and didn't end up being found until centuries later. The rediscovery brought us face to face with the evolution of early fish and proved that there is a potential for ancient species to endure in hidden, uncharted habitats. Extinction might not be the permanent thing we once thought it was, and there are other animals and plants that prove it too. 8. Like Wallami pine. The Wallami pine is a tree that was thought to be extinct about 2 million years ago. We only even knew about it because of the fossils that had been found in the area. In 1994, a major botanical breakthrough happened when park ranger David Noble ended up finding it in Australia's Wollemi National Park.
It was previously only known as a fossil, and it sort of captured the heart of people all over the world because, you know, this tree has managed to survive for over 200 million years.
Noble stumbled upon a hidden grove of these rare trees while exploring a remote part of the park. The area was so rugged and isolated that it had kept the Wollemi pines safe from discovery until then. Realizing what he'd found, Noble reached out to botanists who confirmed that these trees were indeed the long-lost Wollemi pines. This rediscovery was a huge deal for scientists and conservationists. It showed that even in our modern era, there are still ancient species waiting to be found in unexplored corners of the world. 9. Kind of like the night parrot. The night parrot, native to Australia, was believed to be extinct for nearly a century after its last confirmed sighting in 1912, leading many to assume it was lost forever. In 1990, the parrot was rediscovered in the remote outback of Queensland, Australia. The rediscovery was led by ornithologist David Stewart and his team, who stumbled upon the night parrot in a secluded, previously unexplored area. Finding this bird was a huge breakthrough, proving that it had survived in hidden pockets of its natural habitat. With it, it became clear that birds that stick together can figure out a way to survive in the most remote places, completely hidden from the rest of the world. 10. The Laotian rock rat. The Laotian rock rat, thought to be extinct for over 11 million years, was known only from fossil records until its rediscovery in 1996. French biologist Michel Ravel and Laotian scientist Fumi Sauvan led the expedition that found a live specimen in the remote forests of Laos. This rodent, considered lost because of significant geological and environmental changes over millions of years, is from a lineage dating back to the Miocene epoch. The live specimen confirmed that this species, previously thought to have vanished, was still surviving somehow. Its rediscovery provided direct evidence of ancient species that had persisted through dramatic changes. The Laotian rock rat's presence in such an isolated region shows the potential for finding ancient species in unexplored and remote areas. 11. The Vietnamese salamander. The Vietnamese salamander was presumed extinct after the last known specimens were collected in the 1920s. For over 70 years, there were no recorded sightings, and the amphibian was considered lost to science, which was sad because it would have been great to study their ability to regenerate. Well, it wasn't sad for long, because in 1997, the species was rediscovered in the central highlands of Vietnam by a team of researchers led by the herpetologist Jean-Pierre Lasserre. The rediscovery was in a remote forested area that had previously been underexplored. It totally got up and changed its habitat, so even if the researchers had been looking where they'd last seen this salamander, they wouldn't have found it. 12. The Mountain Pygmy possum. The Mountain Pygmy possum is a tiny marsupial native to Australia. It was believed to be extinct by the early 1960s. Climate change might have picked up now, but it was always a problem, and scientists thought that it might have disappeared because of it and habitat loss. In 1966, it was suddenly rediscovered in the snow-covered mountains of New South Wales by naturalist and conservationist Dr. W.A. Bill L. Smith.
We have a special fridge or a bunker which we can control the temperature to mimic the cold environment that they would experience out there in the wild.
It was found during an ecological survey, confirming the species' survival in a remote and previously unexplored area. The rediscovery was significant for conservation efforts, as the mountain pygmy possum is now reclassified as critically endangered. 13. The psychedelic rock gecko. This strangely interesting gecko was thought to have disappeared for good until it was rediscovered in the forests of southern Vietnam in 1994. Known for its bright orange, yellow, and blue colors, this gecko is one of the most visually unique reptiles out there. Before its rediscovery, no one had seen it for years, and its limited habitat made it even harder to track. Found only in a small, rocky region of Vietnam, this gecko has a very restricted range, which puts it at risk from deforestation and human development. When it was finally spotted again, scientists realized they basically had a living gem on their hands. Its colorful appearance made it a key subject for herpetological studies, and researchers have since been focusing on understanding its behavior, diet, and breeding habits. But despite its rediscovery, the psychedelic rock gecko remains vulnerable. 14. The Lord Howe Island phasmid. The Lord Howe Island phasmid, often called the tree lobster because of its large size, was believed to be extinct after the 1920s. Rats introduced to Lord Howe Island were thought to have totally wiped out the species. For decades, this flightless insect remained only a memory, until 2001, when a tiny population was discovered clinging to life on Ball's Pyramid, a remote, rocky outcrop off Lord Howe Island in Australia.
Can grow up to 4 inches in length. That's almost the length of an adult human's hand.
The rediscovery of the phasmid was nothing short of miraculous. Only a few of them were found, so immediate conservation efforts were needed to save the species. 15. Schneiders smooth tree frog. This frog was believed to be extinct after its only known specimen was collected in 1950. For over 50 years, no sightings of this small frog were reported, leading scientists to assume it was gone for good. In 2001, researchers unexpectedly found it in the Atlantic forest of Brazil, one of the world's most biodiverse but heavily threatened ecosystems.
The tree frog spends its days ambling through the canopy, along vines and branches.
Since finding the frog again, conservation efforts have been focused on protecting this fragile ecosystem to ensure the survival of Schneiders smooth tree frog and other species that may still be hiding in its depths. Habitat conservation ends up being one of the most important things we need to work on as people to protect the animals we do have left on Earth. 16. Gilberts Potero. This small marsupial native to Australia was thought to be extinct since the early 1900s because of habitat loss and the introduced species becoming its predators. For nearly a century, it was believed to have been gone entirely until its remarkable rediscovery in 1994 at Two People's Bay Nature Reserve in Western Australia. Since then, conservation efforts have been in full swing to protect this critically endangered species. Today, Gilberts Potero survives in a small, isolated habitat with breeding programs and predator control measures aimed at boosting its population. This isn't exactly the easiest thing to do, because a lot of the time, these animals that have adapted to living very far away from humans only thrive in those conditions. Yet, they're hopeful that this little guy will bounce back and dominate the region once and for all. 17. The Takah. The Takah is a large, flightless bird native to New Zealand that was thought to have disappeared forever after the last confirmed sighting in 1898. Because of habitat loss and hunting, it was declared extinct. But in 1948, a small population was unexpectedly rediscovered in a remote part of Fiordland's Murchison Mountains. This rediscovery was a major win for conservationists, and immediately efforts to protect the bird's fragile population began. Since then, intense conservation programs have been implemented, including habitat restoration and predator control. Despite the challenges, the Takah population has slowly increased, but it remains critically endangered. The numbers just aren't going fast enough, but there's still hope. 18. The Bermuda Petrel. The Bermuda Petrel, also known as the Cahao, was thought to have been extinct for over 300 years because of human exploitation and the introduction of invasive species like rats. This seabird once thrived in Bermuda, but vanished from sight by the early 1600s. In a surprising turn of events, the species was rediscovered in 1951 on small, isolated islands off the coast of Bermuda. Since its rediscovery, a dedicated conservation program has been working to protect and increase the bird's numbers. Efforts include protecting its nesting sites, removing invasive species, and encouraging breeding by creating artificial burrows. While still critically endangered, the population of Bermuda petrels has slowly grown, so this remarkable seabird might one day thrive again. 19. The Cuban Solenodon. The Cuban Solenodon is a rare and venomous mammal and was believed to be extinct for several decades. Known for its nocturnal behavior and distinctive long snout, this strange creature is often referred to as a living fossil because of its lineage, which dates back millions of years. The Solenodon's unique characteristics include its venomous saliva, which it delivers through grooves in its lower incisors, and its ancient lineage, making it a fascinating subject for scientists studying evolutionary history. In 2003, the Cuban Solenodon was rediscovered in the dense forests of Cuba, surprising researchers who had thought it lost to time. The rediscovery has brought with it renewed interest in protecting its habitat and ensuring the survival of this ancient mammal. Conservation efforts are now focused on preserving its forest environment and addressing threats from habitat destruction and introduced predators, so this mammal can survive with the least amount of intervention possible. 20. The Teraskink. The Teraskink is a large and carnivorous lizard, thought to have been extinct since the late 19th century. Known for its impressive size, sharp teeth, and aggressive hunting behavior,
This colouring, combined with its slow movements, helps the skink to camouflage with its surroundings and hide from enemies.
this skink was a fascinating yet dispersed species. It was mainly known from historical specimens and descriptions, leading many to believe it was gone forever. When the world least expected it, the Teraskink was rediscovered in 2003 on the Isle of Pines in New Caledonia. This rediscovery was a significant event for wildlife specialists who had previously thought that the species was lost to time. The skink's unique characteristics and its limited distribution have since made it a key focus for conservationists who are working to protect its remaining habitat and study its behavior and ecology. With a little bit of help, this lizard will be back to its full numbers in no time. 21. The Ivory-billed woodpecker. The ivory-billed woodpecker, similar to the modern woodpecker, was a bird with a very distinctive ivory-colored bill. But as unique as this bird was, it was presumed extinct by the mid-20th century. This was mainly because of extensive habitat destruction and hunting as the humans grew, which destroyed its populations.
The only film ever taken of an ivory bill was captured in 1935 in northeast Louisiana.
By the 1940s, sightings of this magnificent woodpecker had become exceedingly rare, leading many to believe it was lost forever. In the early 2000s, a series of reports and video footage from the swamps of Arkansas suggested that the ivory-billed woodpecker might still be alive. These reports, fueled by the rediscovery of the bird in its historically known range, brought in a lot of renewed interest and hope among conservationists and bird enthusiasts. Despite these clues, confirmed sightings have been few and far in between. 22. The Mongolian wild horse. The Mongolian wild horse was believed to be extinct in the wild by the early 20th century because of, you guessed it, intense hunting and habitat loss. It might seem unbelievable that a horse species would face something like this, but humans have led many animals to extinction because of hunting and moving in on their territory, and this just ended up being one of those circumstances. This rare horse species, known for its stocky build and unique appearance, had been confined to captivity, with no known wild populations surviving. At least, that's what everyone thought for the longest time. In a dramatic turn of events, a small population was rediscovered in the Gobi Desert of Mongolia in the 1960s.
Takah population is growing. Now there are 330 horses.
23. The Rwanda mountain gorilla. The Rwanda mountain gorilla faced near extinction because of rampant poaching and habitat destruction in the 1970s and 1980s. By the late 1980s, the population had dwindled to critically low numbers, with fears that this beautiful species might vanish completely. But when all hope was lost, small populations of mountain gorillas were rediscovered in the volcanic forests of Rwanda during the 1980s. This rediscovery was actually a major turning point, leading to the launch of intensive conservation efforts for them. These included anti-poaching measures, habitat protection, and ecotourism initiatives designed to support local communities while protecting the gorillas. 24. The Javan Rhino. The Javan Rhino, once thought to be extinct in Vietnam, was believed to have survived only in Ujung Kulon National Park in Indonesia. By the early 1980s, concerns about the species' survival were high, with reports suggesting that the population had dwindled dramatically. The rediscovery of the Javan Rhino occurred in 1982 when conservationists and researchers conducting surveys in Ujung Kulon National Park found signs of the rhino's presence.
And the fragmentation of their habitat means rhinos of a suitable breeding age have little chance of encountering one another.
This was a really big moment, as it confirmed that the Javan rhino still existed in the wild. The park, located on the southwestern tip of Java, became the focus of intense conservation efforts because of its status as the last known refuge of this critically endangered species. 25. The mountain yellow-legged frog. The mountain yellow-legged frog, native to California's Sierra Nevada mountains, was feared extinct by the late 20th century. Habitat changes, including water pollution and habitat destruction, along with a deadly amphibian disease known as chytridiomycosis, had completely destroyed its populations. By the 1990s, there were no confirmed sightings of this species, and it was presumed to be lost. In 2000, however, a groundbreaking rediscovery took place. Researchers found small populations of mountain yellow-legged frogs in isolated mountain lakes within the Sierra Nevada. This discovery was a significant relief and highlighted that the species had managed to survive in these remote, protected areas. While these animals figured out their own way to come back to life, is there an animal you wish came back from extinction?